Life does not wait for you to be ready. Every sunrise is a reminder that time is escaping. And whether you act or remain idle, the clock continues to move with brutal indifference. The Stoics understood this truth better than most. They saw life not as a rehearsal, but as the one performance where hesitation is the greatest sin. You can sit and plan forever. You can dream endlessly about the life you want, but none of it has meaning until your feet begin to move. It is here, in the gap between thought and action, where most men destroy themselves. They allow comfort to deceive them, fear to enslave them, and excuses to drain the marrow of their lives. If you are to live as the Stoics demand, you must burn away hesitation with ruthless discipline, for to delay is to deny yourself the life you were meant to live. The first brutal rule is to accept that no one is coming to save you. The world does not bend itself to your weakness, nor does it pause to listen to your complaints. You stand where you are today because of the choices you have made, and where you will stand tomorrow will depend only on what you do now. This is not meant to break you but to set you free. Once you realize that responsibility belongs to you alone, you become untouchable. Blame loses its appeal, self-pity becomes poison, and your only option is forward motion. The Stoic does not waste time begging fate for mercy. He sharpens himself against hardship and moves as if the weight of his life depends on every decision because it does. Another unflinching rule is that time is your most merciless enemy. Marcus Aurelius warned that life is short, and yet we waste it as though we have an endless supply. Consider how many hours you have buried in distractions, in arguments, in regrets, in dreams you never pursued. Every wasted hour is an arrow through your future. The Stoics did not soften this truth. They held it before their eyes daily. If you truly grasped that death may arrive tomorrow, how differently would you live today? Would you still hesitate to take that risk, to speak those words, to rise before dawn and labor for your goals? The brutality of this rule is its honesty. Your time is slipping away, and you cannot bargain for more. You must act now, or you will lose forever the chance to act at all. The next Stoic rule is to see excuses for what they are. Lies you tell yourself to feel safe. Excuses sound noble. I don't have the time. I don't have the resources. I'll start when the moment is right. But the Stoics stripped these lies bare. They knew there is no perfect moment, no ideal conditions, no external force that will align the stars for you. Conditions are never perfect, and yet men have risen from worse than you could imagine. The only difference between those who succeed and those who decay in mediocrity is the ability to act without waiting. To live as a Stoic is to silence your excuses and confront the truth. You are either moving or you are rotting. The man who waits for motivation will die waiting. Action does not come from fleeting feelings but from discipline rooted in reason. The Stoics made this truth unshakable. You cannot depend on moods, on inspiration, or on external pushes to carry you forward. You must act regardless of how you feel. The soldier does not wait to feel brave before stepping onto the battlefield. He moves first, and courage is revealed in the act itself. If you allow feelings to dictate your life, you will remain chained, forever dragged back and forth by impulses. The Stoic rule is brutal because it strips away your excuses. You either do the thing or you betray yourself. No one else can be blamed. The next harsh reality is that your thoughts are not harmless. Every repeated thought etches a groove into your mind, and those grooves become the path you walk daily. Marcus Aurelius warned that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. If you indulge weakness, if you feed your mind with doubt and fear, then weakness and fear will grow until they consume you. If instead you command your mind with strength and discipline, then strength and discipline will become your nature. This is why Stoics guarded their minds as soldiers guard a fortress. They knew that what you dwell on will eventually master you. The rule here is merciless. You become exactly what you think about most. Another Stoic command is to recognize that comfort is the enemy of greatness. Comfort whispers softly, urging you to stay in bed longer, to delay hard work, to settle for less. But every empire, every hero, every philosopher the world remembers was forged in struggle, not in ease. Seneca himself, though wealthy, practiced poverty to keep his spirit sharp. He slept on the floor, ate coarse bread, and wore rough clothes not because he had to, but because he understood the danger of comfort. He wanted to prove to himself that he could endure loss, hunger, and hardship without breaking. The Stoic knew that if you make comfort your master, you will never rise beyond mediocrity. The brutal truth is this: choose comfort and you choose decay. One of the most unforgiving Stoic lessons is that you owe the world your action, not your intentions. A man may speak endlessly about what he will do, what he plans, what he dreams of. He may fill his journals with ideas. But if his hands remain idle, he is nothing but a dreamer lost in illusions. The Stoics despised empty talk. Words without deeds are noise, and intentions without execution rot into regret. The world is not moved by your thoughts, but by your actions. You will not be remembered for what you wanted to do, but for what you dared to accomplish. The rule is brutal because it leaves no place for fantasy. It demands evidence. It demands that your life itself becomes the proof of your convictions. Another rule that shakes men from passivity is the demand to prepare for adversity before it arrives. Most live as if tomorrow will mirror today, as if misfortune will never strike. But the Stoics prepared their minds daily for loss, betrayal, sickness, and death. They did not do this out of pessimism, but out of strength. When disaster came, they were not shattered. They had already rehearsed it in their hearts. Seneca advised that he who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than necessary. Preparation robs fate of its power to terrify. The Stoic rule is therefore merciless. Do not wait for storms to harden you. Become unshakable before they strike. The next iron law is that your life is measured not by its length but by its depth. Men chase years as if adding days automatically brings meaning. But what is the use of a long life if it is spent in hesitation, cowardice, and distraction? The Stoics cut through this illusion. A single year lived with intensity, discipline, and purpose is worth more than decades of drifting. Death is not the tragedy. Never truly living is. You do not control how long you walk this earth, but you do control how fully you walk it. This is why every day must be treated as a lifetime complete in itself. If today were your last, would you be proud of the actions you took, or ashamed of what you left undone? The brutal rule is simple: live deep, not long. Another command that spares no weakness is to accept insults and hardship without complaint. The common man lashes out when offended, cries out when wronged, and lets anger rule him. But Epictetus taught that if someone insults you and you become angry, you are complicit. You allowed them to master your mind. The Stoic response is not to whine or rage, but to stand unshaken, knowing that another's words cannot touch your inner fortress unless you grant them entry. Complaints weaken the soul, but endurance strengthens it. This rule is harsh because it strips you of victimhood. You are not allowed to cry about the cruelty of others. You are commanded to rise above it. Finally, the Stoics demand that you treat each moment as an opportunity for virtue, not a chance to indulge weakness. Every hour presents you with a choice. Will you act with discipline, or will you surrender to impulse? Will you rise to your principles, or will you betray them for ease? Marcus Aurelius wrote that waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. The brutality of this rule lies in its urgency. There is no tomorrow guaranteed, no later moment where you can finally become the man you want to be. It is now, always now. And if you fail in this moment, you have already failed in life. There is a rule the Stoics carved deep into their lives: you do not own tomorrow. You live only in this moment, and this moment is already slipping away. Men waste their strength waiting for the perfect season to begin, but seasons change and then they are gone. Death is not an event hidden in the far horizon. It walks beside you each day, silent and unseen. Marcus Aurelius wrote as if every sunrise might be his last, and he was right. Many who woke this morning will not live to see the night. If you understood this with the full weight of your soul, hesitation would vanish. The brutal rule is this: act now or lose the chance forever. Tomorrow is not promised, but today is burning in your hands. Another rule that demands iron resolve is to remember that the opinion of the crowd means nothing. Men enslave themselves by seeking approval, by shaping their lives to win applause, by fearing rejection. But Epictetus taught that if you want to be free, you must be indifferent to the judgment of others. The Stoic does not live by the shifting moods of the mob. He lives by reason and virtue alone. This rule is brutal because it leaves you without excuses. You cannot hide behind "they will laugh at me" or "what will they think." Their voices are nothing but noise in the wind. If your actions are ruled by them, you have already surrendered your life. To be free, you must be willing to stand alone, even if the whole world is against you. The next unrelenting command is that wealth, status, and pleasure are illusions if you cannot govern yourself. Men chase gold, women, and titles as if these trophies will secure their happiness. But the Stoics saw clearly. External things are fragile, temporary, and beyond your control. They can vanish in an instant. And if your soul is bound to them, you will collapse with them. The only true wealth is mastery over your mind. The only true status is self-command. The only true pleasure is freedom from dependence. This rule is brutal because it strips away the false comforts men cling to. You are reminded that you may have nothing tomorrow, and yet you must remain unshaken. The man who governs himself is rich even in poverty. The man who does not is poor even in abundance. Another Stoic law that cuts deeply is the demand to confront fear directly. Fear grows stronger the longer you flee from it. What you avoid becomes your master. The Stoics knew that courage is not the absence of fear, but the refusal to obey it. Seneca wrote that we suffer more in imagination than in reality, for our minds build monsters that vanish when faced. The brutal truth is that fear is only destroyed by action. If you dread speaking, speak. If you fear failure, attempt. If you fear loss, accept that it is already on its way. This rule leaves no room for hiding. The only way out of fear is through it. And the Stoic walks forward even with trembling legs. The next unyielding command is to discipline your desires. The weak man is a slave not to a master but to his own appetites. Food, lust, laziness, greed. Each appetite chains him tighter than iron shackles. But the Stoic understood that freedom is not doing whatever you wish, but having the strength to refuse what weakens you. Discipline is brutal because it forces you to deny yourself when indulgence would be easier. It strips away the softness that society encourages and replaces it with steel. The man who governs his desires is untouchable. The man who obeys them is already conquered. Another law, perhaps the harshest, is to accept death not as an enemy but as the natural end of all things. Most men live as if death is a thief waiting in the shadows. But the Stoics embraced it as part of life. Marcus Aurelius wrote often about how every man, rich or poor, emperor or slave, is erased by time. To fear death is to fear nature itself, and that is foolishness. The Stoic rule is merciless. Remember your mortality daily, not to despair but to live with urgency and clarity. Knowing you will die frees you from trivial pursuits. You stop wasting time on vanity, gossip, and distractions. You begin to live as if each breath is precious, because it is. The final brutal Stoic law is that your life must be an example, not a speech. Philosophy is not for books alone, not for clever arguments or beautiful words. It is for the battlefield of daily living. Your discipline, your endurance, your courage, these are the proof of your beliefs. If your actions betray your words, you are nothing but a hypocrite dressed in borrowed wisdom. The Stoics demanded alignment between principle and practice, no matter how painful. This is brutal because it leaves no escape. You cannot hide behind theories. You cannot pretend with excuses. The only philosophy that matters is the one lived with blood and sweat. If you believe in virtue, you must embody it. If you believe in action, you must act. When you look back at these rules, they do not soothe or comfort. They cut, they sting, they strip away illusions until only truth remains. Act now, for tomorrow is not yours. Ignore the crowd, for their approval is worthless. Master yourself, for nothing else can be mastered. Face fear, for it dissolves in action. Discipline your desires, for they enslave the weak. Accept death, for it is the fate of all. Live your philosophy, for words are ashes without deeds. These are not gentle reminders, they are weapons meant to pierce your excuses, to burn away laziness, to drag you out of passivity and into the fire of life.